Hello, everybody. We are so excited to be back on here for another live conversation. And thanks again for joining me, Sherry. We had such a blast last time. Last week, we were talking about the importance of having systems in place and why it's so important for your business. And today, we're going to be going back into discussing a little bit deeper into how we can take these systems and really optimize our business, which in turn is going to save us some time and money. And we know that's exactly what we all need right now, especially with how things have shifted with COVID, right? We have seen an increase in cost for PPE. We have seen that patients were working more and spending more time within those appointments, but we're not seeing as many patients as we used to before. And now we're dealing with employee turnover because everybody's just reassessing, their workplace and what they should be doing. So it's really important right now for us to have those systems in place, to us to be able to have great effective leadership and communication. So that's what we're going to be talking about today and discussing how we can optimize our practice and save ourselves some time and money. So thanks for joining us live. If you guys have any questions, feel free to type them in. Join that conversation with Sherry and I.
Yeah, that's right. And before, we dig a bit deeper here in these questions, I thought it's good to ask ourselves some questions. And one important one is, do we have clear goals in sight? So do we know what our new patient numbers are? Our hygiene and doctor goals, do we actually have those goals set and marked? And if we're tracking them, I always feel like benchmarks and the progress of how you have come so far is so good. And I know we talked about this a little last week, but it's really interesting when you actually write down your goals and you may think, well, there's no way I can't get to that. But then if you actually have them and you work towards it, all of a sudden you're like, man, we actually reached those numbers and we're going past them. And it's just so important that we're tracking and everyone's aware, because that's how you're going to progress forward in your practice.
Definitely. That's so true, because if we're not measuring it, we're not able to manage it, right? So how do we actually know if we're growing? How do we know if we've veered off track slightly? How do we know if we have veered off track, in what areas, and how do we get back on track? So it's super important for us to be continuously doing this throughout the year and not just wait until the end of the year when we pass all of our documents over to our accountant and say, tell me how I did. Because that is, the year's done. What can you do about it, right? So it's really important to make sure that we have these processes in place. So in that way, we're driving our business forward, and we're not driving by just looking in the rear view mirror, because we're not going to get anywhere quickly. So it's really, really important, like Sherry said, have the benchmarks, communicate it with your team, include it in your job descriptions. And I know when we do this for our clients, that's when they say this is the biggest game changer for them. They notice a significant improvement in operations after we've helped them implement this. So I completely agree with you, Sherry.
Yeah, it's definitely so important. And, another one that I think is really important, and they find it a lot harder, maybe the more old school doctors, but are we relevant on social media? I know for myself, I find it super hard, because it's like you'll get to know one thing and you're using it, and then all of a sudden you'll jump to another. Like, I know Instagram was like so huge, and now all of a sudden it's like, what's TikTok? Everyone is using all the reels and the videos. But once we get out there, having that online presence and reaching out to our audience and even those potential patients, that's how we're going to reach them. And we kind of have to think outside the box. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it does put us in an very uncomfortable spot. But then once you start doing it, you realize, there are different patients in different areas of our social media. And so we really, want to reach them. And then along with that, how are we tracking our new patients? How many are we getting a month? Do we know what our goal is? Do we know how they're being referred to us? And those are really important things too that I feel like a lot miss. Like, I'll talk to a practice and ask them, and they're like, I don't know. Like, some are websites, some are whatever, but I'm like, it's really important that you do know this, because then you can kind of shift that focus and be like, okay, I'm getting, a lot of patients from this, or from, this area of line, like with Instagram or Facebook. And so we really want to invest, properly in those areas. And then even about our SEO, bump it up if you can. Get to the top of the list of dentists in your area. I know this has come up a lot too. And if you are in the top, and then when they actually search in the internet, they're going to be able to find you within that area. Mm-hmm. So sometimes it is good to pay a little bit more and just get yourself in an area where you are going to be noticed more, even in those Google searches.
Yeah. And you said so many great ideas there because, like you said, there's so much power in social media. And I completely agree with you that it totally throws us out of our comfort zone. Like, do I like doing lives? No, it's not fun. It's extremely nerve-wracking, right? But, this is how people are engaging with us. They're learning about us. And it's the same thing with your practice, right? Videos are huge. YouTube is a search engine. So even if you're Googling and if you're typing in, Invisalign or what have you, it's going to also pick up what those keywords are in those videos on YouTube. So it's so important to be able to utilize those to reach more people. And I love that point that you said, it's really investing because you are investing in your business, the growth, getting more patients. So we need to start thinking and operating as if this was, like a multi-million-dollar corporation, because it is a $1 million company. So when we're thinking and we're looking at big companies like that, they have a dedicated marketing department. And those marketing department, like they have different track sheets, like you were saying, Sherry, figuring out where are these people coming from? How long are they engaging with this post? Are they watching this? So then they're interested in that. So now I'm going to be making more of these, right? So it's being able to track and measure and manage it. And like you were saying, we want to spend money on things that are working. So in order for us to do that, we need to measure that, right? And then be able to take the funds from things that aren't working and reinvest into things that are working.
Yeah, that's so true. And along with those lines too, I was thinking with that referral source, our biggest one, I would say that if you look to where your referral source should be your actual patients. So how is our customer service? How is our customer service satisfaction? Like, do patients go in and write like a Google review for you? Do you ask your patients, hey, can you go put a review in for me? And I feel like this is something that's really important because happy patients are loyal patients.
Oh, yes.
So they're basically free advertising through either word of mouth or reviews. I've had times where I remember when we moved here and I was asking my friends, who's a good dentist to see? You do go to your friends or ones and you put your trust in them because they're going to know firsthand. Yeah, I've seen them. I've been with them for years. They are amazing. So, ask your patients, and sometimes people may feel uncomfortable because I remember learning this a couple of years ago and we were talking to another dentist and he said, just ask. And I'm like, oh, that's, feels so awkward. But it really isn't, once you start talking to a patient and they come out and it's like, how was today? Oh, it was amazing. Our hygienist was unreal and I always love seeing her. Well, can you do me a favor? Can you go on and just write a Google review for us? Yep, no problem. And you would be surprised of how many patients actually do go on there and do that for you. I just feel like those loyal patients are going to continue to visit you and they're going to continue to bring that consistent business, which you're looking for. So make sure that your customer service and how you are with your patients is top level.
Yeah. And I think the two biggest takeaways from that is, like you said, patients, they already know, like, and trust you. So they are already advocates of you. Second piece is your team they're also your brand ambassadors. And like you were saying, they all of a sudden become subject matter experts. As soon as somebody knows that you work in the dental field, they start going, okay, well, who's a good orthodontist? What do you recommend for implants? I want to do this. All of a sudden they start pointing out all the things that they want to do. So this is an opportunity as well for those team members to be your advocates. So it's really important to make sure that we are, empowering our team, empowering our patients, giving them easy tools to be able to give us those reviews and give us better social proof so we can get more and more patients through the door as well.
Yeah, you know what? That is so true. And that, that top-notch patient experience that we talk about. And like you said, when you're trained and you have your team, I mean, if you have them trained, and this goes back to what we talked about the week before, and we've talked about in the past, is systems, training. If that is all in place, it's always going to be consistent. You're going to have the same patient wow experience. You're going to have the same patient check-in with every patient. That's it. How you present treatment. And that goes along with too, when you are presenting treatment, do you have your girls trained? Like in the hygiene, are they up? Do they bring up the intraoral pictures? Do they actually show them? And so they are actually visualizing what treatment they need. And I remember, this is years ago before I was in dental, I remember sitting in the chair and a dentist telling me I needed a couple fillings. And I was like, he just needs the money. Like there was nothing presented, explained to me. And mind you, this was before I actually worked in the dental. But I feel like now more than ever, it's so important because people are invested in their health, but they also want to know why. Like, why do you need to replace this filling in order to have a crown? And then when you actually show them, here, I'm showing you the marginal leakage. See that fracture there, it's going to break right off. And if this happens, and if you don't get it done, it could lead to a root canal, or we're going to have to extract it. And then when they're actually seeing that tooth up on the camera as they're sitting in the chair, it's like, yeah, wow, I need to get this done. So making sure that we're presenting to in top notch, along with, customer service.
Yeah, no, I think you said so many great things there. But what I really want to piggyback off of is you're mentioning, those protocols, right? We want to make sure that those protocols aren't just, I told you before type of thing. It has to be outlined. It has to be documented. It has to be, this is our standardized process for, this exam. The x-rays need to be up. This needs to be discussed before I walk in, this, and this. And then we need to be able to not only just use this for these standard operating procedures and training just for only new employees, and then the training stops after the probationary period. These are things that we should be constantly going through, role playing, dedicating a certain amount of time every single month within our team meetings to be able to actually do these role playings, go through, a situation, review processes. This is a great opportunity for people to ask questions, to teach one another, to practice, and just to constantly be improving and, making sure that this process is actually happening every single time, because we know this is the way that works, and has given us great success. And again, like you said, give a great patient experience every time.
Yeah. No, I agree. There's so many that you feel like, well, is it just one or two things? Well, no, it's actually quite a few. And that's why we push and we talk about this so much, because like me and we've worked in the dental industry and we've worked at offices where there weren't systems in place, where people weren't trained properly, and there was people quitting, or you had high turnover. It was just like constant change. So, it's pretty important that we're doing all this and investing in our team. I feel like that is so high up there. And I'll tell you something. I stayed at a practice for 12 years. And I always get asked, why did you stay there? Oh, you must have got paid well. Yeah, I did get paid well, and I was compensated every time. But also, there were so many factors that came into place. Being sent on courses, being trained. And those are things that I really, recommend to dentists and talk to them and say, invest in your team members.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes someone may feel frustrated because they're put in a position with either little or zero training. Yeah. So make sure, like we talked about, that proper training and processes are in place. And then also sending them, rewarding them, sending them on courses. I know it's a little bit harder with COVID. So maybe we can't fly somewhere, but maybe we can take something online, or do something in our backyard. You know, we have Banff, or go for a hike, or somewhere that you can drive to, and, you know, really invest in your team, because I feel like when you are doing that, the morale is so much higher. And that practice, they're going to want to work harder for you. And I mean, that's how I felt in my last practice too. When you are getting a dentist that is constantly doing little things, and it doesn't even have to be gifts. Like, I've heard dentists say, well, I don't want to keep paying this or doing that. Then they feel like they have to do something for money. No, it's not that. But even, you know, something little, or dropping off a coffee on their desk, or, you know, a recognition in front of your whole team, like, thanks for staying late for that patient. I know you worked through your lunch and I really appreciated it. Because guess what? A lot of times when we have a break or lunches, we don't get to take them because you're running overtime or something may happen in that chair. So make sure that you're really praising your team, you're investing in them, and showing them how much they mean to your practice.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, I mean, it doesn't have to break the bank at
No.
all. There's so many things that you could be doing online right now. There are so many great courses and resources that are available. And like Sherry was saying, when a team member feels that you are investing in their personal growth and development, then they start to feel like they want to do more. They're going to start to have an ownership. You're starting, like, the leadership starts from the top.
Yeah.
So I know that, you know, we're advocating for a lot of support for your team members during these difficult times, but we realize, doctors, you guys are going through a tough time as well. So it's really important as well for you to take that time to really invest in yourself, in these courses, within masterminds, doing workshops. And I'm going to really encourage doing workshops that are focused around leadership and communication. Because remember, you're the owner. You're the CEO. You've got the name on the door, which by default means you are the leader. Whether you like it or not, whether it's out of your comfort zone, whether you do something about it or not, the team is going to constantly look to you for leadership. And I know that throws a lot of people out of their comfort zones, but you need that support as well when it comes to figuring out ways on how to effectively lead and communicate with your team. How do I delegate? How do I hold my team accountable? What are some things that I could be doing to just make this more of a cohesive culture and improve the dynamics, so in that way other people are happy, which then means the office is running smoothly, which then means my patients are happy, we're making money, and I'm happy, right? So it's really important to make sure that you are strong, you're a strong leader, and that is going to help create strong leaders as well within your team. That's going to foster creativity, respect, and support. So really encourage, never stop learning for yourself, growing personally as well, to be able to just continue to improve and grow the business. So it's extremely important to make sure you're taking that time for yourself as well.
Yeah, definitely. I love it
And
all. I feel like it's all combined and it's so important. And I mean, we're seeing it right now. We're talking to a lot of practices, dentists, and everyone has high turnover. They're stressed. They can't find employees. So ways that we can keep them and how we can get to the next level, especially during such a hard time and coming back from COVID, it's so important.
yeah, yeah, definitely. And we've got a lot of resources as well for leadership and communication. And we've got some great workshops and masterminds as well. So definitely reach out if you want some more information. But there is one more tip that I do want to provide in terms of how to save some time and optimize your business. And I'm a huge fan of doing time audits, being able to see, okay, what am I spending a lot of time in? What are some bottlenecks within the business that's really draining my time? In other words, what's taking my time away right now from things that are producing revenue? And then once we start to assess those, then that's what we need to identify. How are we going to solve it? Am I going to automate it? Can I delegate it out, or can I outsource it? And once we start doing that and putting ourselves and freeing ourselves up from those bottlenecks, now we can put ourselves in the zone of genius, which again is you're in doing something that you love every single day. That inspiration, that passion, it's infectious to the rest of your team and to your patients. But it's also going to make sure that you're actually moving in the right direction, and we don't feel like we're, just feeling like we're swimming upstream with one hand tied behind our back, because we're constantly having to go and get our time zapped away from us. So doing a time audit is huge. And that's where I find that, really going through and doing a good solid review of your job descriptions reviewing who's doing what, where are things falling through the cracks, and then being able to assess, if I'm spending an hour doing this or 5 hours doing this, and this is how much how much my expenses are per hour, should be spending my 5 hours on something else that's actually bringing in money, right? So that's the power of really identifying what's it really costing you when you're spending that time on something else. It's taking it away from your business.
Yeah, that's so true. I love those. The audits are so important in tracking, and it's amazing that you talk to so many practices that don't know that, or you ask them, hey, where are your numbers here? Or where are you focused? Or how much do you time? Well, and you can tell they're not sure, but those are all important things that you need to know to bring your level to the next, your practice to the next level.
Definitely. And like, I know, for example, like, especially this morning, I was working with an office to help them create their KPIs. And then we started diving into, okay, well, how much money is it costing you every single hour you are opened?
Yeah.
Right. In order for them to determine that, you have to take your profit and loss reports and take a look at your entire expenses for the year. Then you're going to take how many hours you're open for the year, and you're going to divide that.
Yeah.
So we ended up figuring out that it was around $250 an hour that she is spending every single hour that practice is open. And if we're not producing at that level, then you're losing money every single hour. And the moment that we came up with that number, her mind just shifted completely. And it gives you so much more power when it comes to making decision and how you're going to be spending your time on those things. So if anything that you take away from this conversation, I would definitely say start there, and that's going to help you make better decisions on how am I going to optimize my business and what kind of decisions do I need to be making, who needs to be doing what during these times. So in that way, I make sure I'm making way more than $250 an hour so that I'm making profit within my business.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, thanks guys for tuning in. I see we've got quite a few people that are watching, so thanks so much for joining us. I know in the coming weeks, we're going to be talking about everything when it comes to the cost of HR, the cost of employee turnover. So keep joining us for our live conversations. Make sure to join our mailing list and keep track on our website as well. We're going to be constantly posting what's coming up. So in that way, you guys can join us here live, or feel free to reach out if you have any questions. But thanks again, Sherry, for staying on with us and spending your Friday again with us.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.